Hi, welcome to MyDrugTestingProgram.com. Whether you're new to the Department of Transportation drug-free workplace regulations, or you've already got a program for your company and you just want to see if you're safe and in compliance, you have some important questions you need the answers to. What will happen when your company gets inspected? Are you at risk of paying big fines for drug and alcohol program violations? And how can you get into compliance for as little as $20.97 per month starting right now? This presentation has three parts. First, a brief overview of what the state and federal inspectors look for when they come to audit you. The second part is what MyDrugTestingProgram.com does to help you to get into and stay in compliance. And the third is what you need to do to quickly and easily get into compliance for as little as $20.97 a month starting right now. There are three main areas that DOT or state inspectors look for when they come to audit you. The first area is written or paperwork. That's what you keep in your file cabinets, what you fill out, what you have to file, and what reports that you have to keep or send. The second is training, driver training and supervisor training. And the third is testing, alcohol and drug testing. So what's required under the written or paperwork end of the regulations? You have to have a written company drug and alcohol abuse policy statement. You have to pass out employee assistance information before your employees start working for you. You want to keep a receipt of employee training and information to prove that they've been given what's required. You want to keep a confidential employee files, which have to be safe and secure, just like healthcare records. You want to keep a certificate of any supervisor training to prove your supervisors have been properly trained. You want to keep supervisor files. Basically, you want to keep any testing records and results, reasonable suspicion information, any correspondence with your drug testing program, including substance abuse professional records. The DOT also requires that you have semi-annual reports which show the activity in your drug testing program every 6 months, and then an MIS report. The DOT picks out companies every year at random, and if they pick you, they'll notify you that they want an MIS report from you, which is their way of gathering statistical information on the drug testing throughout the transportation industry. And then finally, there are the filing requirements, which is what you have to keep and how long you have to keep it. Required driver training includes they need to have a company policy statement given to them. Employee assistance information, such as if an employee has a problem and needs to see a substance abuse professional, you don't have to pay for it, but you do have to have the name of someone you can refer them to. They have to be given access to the regulations that they're working under and know what a violation looks like and the consequences of violating the regulations. They're to be given information on drugs and alcohol and their effects, and then a voluntary employee assistance program, which is for employees who want to come forward with a drug or alcohol problem before they're caught. Supervisor training involves 1 hour of drug information and 1 hour of alcohol information for the supervisor who supervises CDL holders. They are trained to spot the physical and behavioral signs and symptoms of use and abuse. The information, much like the driver training on drugs and alcohol and their effects, and how to conduct reasonable suspicion if they spot a driver that they suspect might be using or abusing drugs or alcohol, and how to go about getting them tested. The last area of the requirements are drug testing and alcohol testing. Drug testing is done using a split specimen procedure where urine specimens are split into two. There's a chain of custody process that's followed with tamper-proof tape, and it's all packaged up following the control and custody procedure and sent off to a laboratory by the certified collector. Then there's alcohol testing, which is breath testing and saliva testing. As far as the required drug and alcohol testing, there's actually 4 types of alcohol and 5 types of drug testing. Pre-employment is only drug testing with some exceptions. If an employee has been in a program within 30 days and has either been tested within 6 months or had been in that program for at least a year, they can skip it as long as you can get records of their previous from their previous employer of their participation in that program. Random testing, which has to be conducted at an annual rate of 50% of the total number of drivers in a pool annually for drugs and 10% in a pool for drivers annually for alcohol. Reasonable suspicion testing, which is drug and alcohol. Post-accident testing, which depends on whatever the case may be. Return to work testing and follow-up testing. So let's get into part 2 of the presentation, how MyDrugTestingProgram.com helps you to meet the regulations in those 3 areas, the written, the training, and the testing. this is how mydrugtestingprogram.com helps you comply with the paperwork and filing regulations. First of all, you're going to get a company program certificate that shows that your company is participating in a program that complies with the DOT regulations. You'll also get access to an online members reference guide which helps you with many of the common questions you may have about your program. You'll also get a drug and alcohol abuse policy statement that you can use for your own, or you can have one written up by your attorney. It depends on what your situation is. You may have some union obligations too that affect your policy, but this one is one that you can use if you choose to. You'll also get guides, a step-by-step guide for setting up your confidential employee files, a step-by-step guide for setting up your supervisor files, a step-by-step guide for your paperwork filing requirements. You'll also get help with your employee assistance information as far as how to get that set up and distributed to your employees that are affected by that. Instructions for conducting employee and supervisor training. A supervisor training certificate for any of the supervisors that complete the training, and we'll talk about that again in a few moments. Also, testing results are sent to you by the medical review officer and also available online for you to download in an on-demand system so you can get them faxed or emailed to you. Also, you'll have reports that will be generated for you, and those reports will be available upon request. So if the DOT asks you for a MIS report we mentioned earlier, we can help you get that put together so you can get that sent to them. Also, the semi-annual reports will be available for you upon request, and if the DOT or state auditors come to you and ask for any particular thing, we can help you get whatever they're looking for during audits too. So how do we help you with the driver training? First of all, you're going to get a 1-hour driver training audio-based system, which covers overview of the regulations, the drug and alcohol information. There's an employee handout which incorporates the drug and alcohol abuse policy, the employee assistance information that you're required to give them, and the confirmation of receipt. There's also a voluntary program, step-by-step guide for putting that together for your employees in the members reference guide, and then it's all in the members reference guide: how to conduct the training, how to use materials, how to do the filing, how to set it all up. For the required supervisor training, you're going to get 2 supervisor training audios, 1-hour audios. It's a regulations overview, reasonable suspicion training, drug and alcohol information. There's going to be a supervisor handout that you can use for your drivers. They can follow along on the audio, with the audio, and then there's a post-test at the end. You can have them fill that out, make a copy of it. You can either fax or email it to us, and we'll send you a certificate for the for the supervisors who've been trained. Also, all of this again, step-by-step guide in the members reference guide: how to conduct the training, how to use the materials, how to do the filing, how to set it all up. There are several different reasons for testing that you don't determine yourself, such as random testing, return to work testing, and follow-up testing, but there are types that you do have to determine your tests, when to test yourself, which is pre-employment, reasonable suspicion, and post-accident. You need to check in your members reference guide to learn when those types of testing must be done and when there are exceptions. So how do we help you get your random testing done? Well, random selections, first of all, have to be done out of a random selection pool, and we have to determine what type of pool your drivers will be selected out of. And there are 2 types. One is your own company's individual company pool, and the other is a consortium pool, which is made up of drivers from multiple companies. Now, there's a lot of people out there who will tell you that you'll do less testing if you're in a bigger pool, but that's not true because the percentage is still the same. And if that were true, then the DOT wouldn't allow it. But consortium pool is made up of drivers from multiple companies, but if you're an owner-operator, you have to be in a consortium pool because you can't be selected randomly by yourself. But if you have at least 2 or 3 drivers, you can have your own individual company pool, and that's what we recommend. And the reason we do is because then you know exactly how many tests you're going to have per year. Before we can do random testing, we have to determine first how many tests have to be done. The way we do that, and let's use our sample of 100, our example of 100 that we used earlier, 100 drivers in a pool. If we have 100 drivers in the selection pool, then what we do is we have to multiply that times 50% to get the number we have to do for the calendar year to meet 50%. and that would be 50 tests, and we multiply that times however many selections we're going to do. So let's say we're going to do 2 selections, then that would mean we would need to get 25 done each time. Or we just have to, it has to come out to 50% by the end of the calendar year completed as far as testing. For random alcohol tests, it has to be 10%. So if it was 100 in the pool again, we'd multiply that times 10% and then divide that by however many selections we're going to do, and that's how many randoms we're going to pick. Now, we don't get 100% compliance. Sometimes people are gone, sometimes somebody's been laid off, or somebody's out of work, or somebody's out of business, whatever the case may be. And so we have to over-select a bit in order to get to the percentage that we need to be for each one of the selections, but basically we shoot for exactly the 50 and 10%. Now, there are some rules that we have to follow that the DOT sets out about each random selection. In each selection, all drivers in the pool must be eligible every single time a selection is done. So that means some drivers can be selected more than once in a calendar year, and others might not be selected at all. The selections are randomly chosen by a computer, and they are done by a scientifically valid method. All tests must be done by a cutoff date given when we do the notifications. We give you several weeks to get the results to us. For owner-operators, they need to get the testing done as soon as practicable. That's the wording of the regulations. For non owner-operator companies, I'll explain that in a moment here. All testing must be completed, though, with results before the end of the calendar year. So this is how we do the notifications and send them to you. First of all, after we do the selections, we generate random selection notices. We send the notices of who is selected for random testing by email, fax, or mail to you, to your contact, your designated employee representative, who then notifies whichever of the employees has been selected. You can find a notification form in your member's reference guide that you can use for that process. So what does it cost to do the drug and alcohol testing? Well, first of all, whenever you have a drug test, there's actually 3 parties involved besides yourself. First of all, there's a collection site who collects the urine specimen, and then they package it up in the collection kit, and then they send it off to the laboratory. Each one of those generates its own fee. The laboratory processes the specimens, and then they send off an electronic result to the medical review officer, who is a doctor who reviews the results and then makes the final determination and then reports the results to you, the company. Now, you will choose a local collection site. Your drivers will take the collection forms that the laboratory will send you in the kits to a collection site, and then you'll have the collection done. You will arrange to pay the collection site for the urine collection fees. Generally speaking, they're $25 to $35. They're in that range. If it's for a breath or an alcohol test, your drivers go to the collection site for breath or saliva testing, and there's going to be a trained technician who will have their own forms there. And again, in that case, you'll pay the site for those forms. Now, the difference is, if you go through our system for the drug tests automatically come to us. Always, breath alcohol and saliva alcohol tests do not come directly to us. You have to send us a copy. You need to forward a copy to us either by email or fax or by mail, and always a copy you want to keep the original. Now, what happens then is the laboratory and the medical review officer fees are sent to mydrugtestingprogram.com, and we will debit your credit card or checking account for the laboratory and medical review officer services whenever you have testing done. So we're going to send you a form when you get started, and you're going to need to fill that out, which is a payment authorization form for the testing services. So if you want testing through us, you have to authorize us to be able to debit your a debit card or a credit card or a checking account in order for that to happen. Otherwise, also, if you can find a better price than what we're going to charge, ours is going to be $49 for the medical review officer and lab fees. Like I said, you'll be paying about $25 for your collection site fees, so you're looking at about $75 and up. If you can find something better than that, that's fine. You can get that done and then forward a copy of the results to us. But the difference is if you don't go through our system, it won't be available for the on-demand system, and it won't be available for online and 24/7 access on the system. So, and you'll have to forward a copy to us. Which brings us to the third part of our presentation. How much does it cost to start your membership with mydrugtestingprogram.com, and what do you need to do to get started now? Well, you have two options for your membership. The first is a monthly membership for $20.97 per month, or a yearly membership for $199. In either case, it'll be billed automatically to a debit or credit card or to your bank account, and that'll depend on how you pay when you click on the Get Started button in a little bit. Also, this is a per company, not a per driver fee. So what that means is, if you start off with 2 drivers, your administration fee for the yearly or monthly membership will not change. If you add 10 more drivers or 20 more drivers, it'll still be the same. And you will pay for your drug tests as you go and only when you have them. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that works in a little bit. Here's what you're going to get for your $199 a year or $20.97 per month. First of all, you're going to get access to the members area of mydrugtestingprogram.com. You'll get a company drug and alcohol abuse policy statement that you can pass out to your drivers. You're going to get a members reference guide, which has most of the answers to the questions that you'll have about your drug testing program. You're going to get all the step-by-step guides for your paperwork and filing requirements that we talked about earlier, and you're going to get a company program certificate. You're also going to get a driver audio-based training system, which starts with the step-by-step training guide in the members reference guide that you can print out and use to conduct your driver training. You'll get a 1-hour driver training audio, which has all the information that's required on it. You'll get a driver training handout, which has incorporated in it the employee assistance information, the company drug and alcohol abuse policy, and the driver training receipt that you can keep for their files to show that they've been given the information that's required. You're also going to get an audio-based certified supervisor training system. Also, again, in the members reference guide, there's a step-by-step training guide to conducting the supervisor training. You're going to get 2 1-hour supervisor training audios. One will be on drugs and their effects and the other on alcohol. You're going to get a handout which supervisors can follow along with when they're listening to the audio. And you're also going to get a supervisor post test which they fill out, and you can either send a copy or email or fax a copy, and we'll get you a certificate of completion for those supervisors that shows that they've had the training that they're required to have. The DOT also requires someone in your company to be what's called the Designated Employee Representative, or the DER. So we've put together a Designated Employee Representative orientation, which you can find also in the Members Reference Guide. We're going to set you up with a DOT certified laboratory. They will send you out custom printed chain of custody forms that have your company's name and information on it and the medical review officer name and information on it. Each one of them has a unique specimen ID on there. They are for the urine drug screen collections, and those will be sent to you for free. You'll also be sent urine collection kits and supplies. You're also going to get set up with a medical review officer. The medical review officer receives the results from the laboratory whenever testing is done, and then they report the results to you. You will have access 24/7 to customer service with them to answer questions about results. That you'll also be able to get reports from them depending on how your preferences are set up, and you can choose from fax, email, or mail. For 24/7 reporting, so as soon as it's available, it'll be sent to you. And then there's also an on-demand system where you can log on, where you can actually go online and get your results, or you can call in and order results to be sent to your fax or email. Now, we're also going to do random selections for you, and the first thing we do is we check to make sure that the proper percentage is going to be done for the pool that your drivers are selected out of, so that they're in compliance, so that your company is in compliance. So that's calculated first. The selections are done and generated by a computer using a scientifically valid method approved by the Department of Transportation. We will then send notifications to you based upon your preferences, either being email, fax, or U.S. mail. Then you notify your selected employees that have been tested. If you're an owner-operator and we notify you directly, then the DOT requirement is that you go as soon as practicable. Tests must be completed, which means they have to be collected at the site, processed by the lab, and reported by the medical review officer, which that can take several days before the deadline is given on the notice, and all testing has to be done and completed before the end of the calendar year. Results for all types of testing will be sent to you via email, fax, or U.S. mail depending on your preferences. Results, again, are available online 24/7 and on demand 24/7. All the required reports that I mentioned earlier will be generated for you and available to you upon request by email, fax, or U.S. mail, or you can call us and ask for the report to be sent to you that way too. If you get picked for that management information system report, also will help you put that one together. And also past test records will be available online 24/7 with the medical review officer also. You can search those and request those, print them out offline, or you can request them on the on-demand system. You'll also have free email and phone support for compliance questions with mydrugtestingprogram.com. You'll have a free 24/7 phone support with the medical review officer for questions about results, or if you're missing results, you're trying to find out where they're at. And also, if you need help with an audit or any special reports that have been requested, again, we'll help you put those together when you need them. And if you do have questions about an audit, you can go into our members reference guide, and we put together an audit survival guide that might help you calm your nerves if you know you're going to have an audit. You're trying to figure out what's going to happen. So you're going to get everything you need to help you get into and stay in compliance for either $199 a year or $20.97 a month. Membership in mydrugtestingprogram.com, a company certificate, a members reference guide that you can search for all the answers to most of the common questions you might have, paperwork and filing guides, driver audio-based training system, a supervisor audio-based training system, supervisor training certificates, testing supplies and forms are sent to you. You'll be set up with a certified laboratory with a medical review officer with 24/7 access to your results. You'll use local collection sites. The random selections will be done for you. Results will be available online and on demand, again, 24/7. Reports will be done for you and available whenever you request them, and you'll have help with audits. Basically everything you need to get into and stay in compliance. So don't wait. The DOT inspectors and auditors won't wait, and those fines won't wait. Get started right now. Choose your membership, either a monthly membership for $20.97 per month or yearly membership for $199. Get into and stay in compliance. Click on the Get Me Started button right now.